Hey, how's it going? Nick Digilio here. That's me. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. Got a ton of videos here, over 150 of them. Scroll down, they go back for months. I do movie reviews, which I'm going to do here. I talk about TV and books and music and concerts and tell stories and personal things, all kinds of cool stuff. Very entertaining stuff that I hope that you like and I hope that you check out, and I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that brings me to Patreon, where you'll see these videos as well, and bonus videos. If you subscribe to Patreon, if you become a patron and you donate, pick a tier, donate $3, $6, $25 a month. It's a monthly donation. Helps me out a lot, keeps things going. It's very cool. It's very important to support the people on Patreon. $3 a month, I mean, that's nothing. That's a candy bar and a Schlitz. You don't need a candy bar and a Schlitz. So bring that $3 and throw it my way. Patreon.com/NickD Show. And because you donate, you get bonus videos that nobody else has access to. And those include behind-the-scenes stories of what really happened at WGN. Lots of videos there for patrons only that you can watch and get the behind-the-scenes stories of what really happened. But you got to be a patron. Patreon.com/NickD Show. My podcast is the Nick D Podcast. It drops new episodes every Tuesday and Friday, part of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. So check out RadioMisfits.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. Check us out, rate, review, subscribe. It's free, my podcast. Check it out. Okay, I review movies, and one of the big movies that is out this summer is Elvis. Yes, it's the big biopic directed and co-written by Baz Luhrmann. And I happen to be a really big Elvis fan. I love Elvis. I am a huge fan of him. Not a big fan of his movies for the most part, but I love Elvis as an artist, as a human, as an entity, as a representation for what America is in all its greatness, in all its badness, in all its, over-excessiveness. Elvis represents to me what America is, has been, and continues to be. And Graceland is that place. If you've never been to Graceland, you should, because it's America in one place. It represents everything that's good, bad, hilarious, and absurd about this fucking country. And it's all there. And you can visit it and feel all of those emotions, those weird things about this insane country that we live in that, covers the gamut of greatness and idiocy all over the place. It's all there to see at Graceland. I highly recommend you go to Graceland. It's very moving. If you're an Elvis fan, obviously you'll love it. I've been there 3 times, and at the end of each tour that I've gone on, I've cried at the end, because I've gone a couple of times with the audio tour. I don't know if it's probably changed since I've gone, but at the very end they play If I Can Dream, which is Elvis's best song ever, and they play that at the end when you get to the grave. It's very moving. But anyway, so I am an Elvis fan. Let me just preface this by saying I'm a huge Elvis fan. I, however, am not a Baz Luhrmann fan, and that's an understatement. I think Baz Luhrmann is one of the worst directors in the history of film. I think he is one of the most embarrassingly, over-the-top, shamelessly idiotic, moronic, clueless, terrible, no talent, no skill, no brains, no storytelling ability filmmaker on the planet. He's the worst. He's never made a movie that I like. He's never made a movie that I don't hate, except for I didn't hate Strictly Ballroom. Strictly Ballroom is the only movie that he made that I have not hated. So that's the only one that he made that I haven't hated. And I'm looking at his list right now. But if you look at his list, Strictly Ballroom, which is a bad movie but not a horrible movie. Everything else I will mention, horrible. Romeo and Juliet, his version of Romeo and Juliet, unwatchable. Moulin Rouge, one of the worst movies ever made. One of the most obnoxious, annoying, incredibly horrible, fucking stupid, idiotic, one of the worst movies ever made, Moulin Rouge. Australia, his big epic dedicated to his home, his home continent of Australia with Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman. Awful, and it's 9 hours long. He also directed The Great Gatsby. His version of The Great Gatsby is so bad that kids who are forced to read it, you know how when you're 14 or you're 13 or you're in 8th grade or something, your teacher says you have to read The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and you're like, oh shit, let's just watch the movie. The Baz Luhrmann version of the Great Gatsby, which by the way makes the Robert Redford version look like Citizen Kane, and the Robert Redford version is shit, but the Baz Luhrmann version with Leonardo DiCaprio as Gatsby it's so bad that even kids who were assigned to read the book and watch the movie, they were like going to cheat out and watch the movie. 15 minutes into the movie, they went, you know what, I'm going to read that book. I think I'm just going to go ahead and read the book. Thanks. That's how bad it is. Well, anyway, this jagoff, this untalented, no-talent piece of shit filmmaker, a filmmaker so bad that he makes Ed Wood look good, and actually that's kind of an insult to Ed Wood. This is how bad Baz Luhrmann is. He is now taken it upon himself to do this almost 3-hour epic telling the story of Elvis Presley. From the beginning, his childhood, all the way up until his death. And so I think I couldn't picture a worse director to do this. And I knew the results were going to be terrible, but I really didn't know that they were going to be this terrible. This movie exceeds my expectations for shit. This is as bad a movie as a human being could make. It's as insulting a movie to the memory of an incredible musician and artist that you could possibly imagine. An incredible singer, artist, icon. Shit all over the guy's grave, why don't you, Baz Luhrmann? It reminded me a lot of Bohemian Rhapsody in that it took an amazing singer, an amazing artist, incredibly talented, with a very interesting backstory, and reduced it to shit. And not only that, but it's unbelievably historically inaccurate, just like Bohemian Rhapsody was. There's not one fucking ounce of truth in Bohemian Rhapsody. It's a piece of crap, and if you liked it, you're an idiot. And all it does is, in order to justify its existence, it made up a whole bunch of stuff. It is the most inaccurate piece of shit, filled with absolute inaccuracies, flat-out lies, and bullshit. It is an absolute insult to the memory of Freddie Mercury, an absolute disgrace to the life and the story of Freddie Mercury, and Brian May and Freddie Mercury's family should be fucking ashamed of themselves for allowing that inaccurate lie to be made. But it coasts by, because Rami Malek is very good in it. He does a really nice job playing Freddie, and a really nice job in the movie, and they recreate the whole Live Aid thing almost, perfectly for the big screen. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the problem with that. You can see the Live Aid performance, the full Live Aid performance, online, anywhere. It's accessed. So why would you go and see a movie that absolutely, completely alters and completely lies about the life of Freddie Mercury just so you can see the Live Aid thing, when you can see the real thing by not paying money to the fucking lies that Bohemian Rhapsody had? Same thing here. Same thing here. This movie is filled with inaccuracies, bullshit, flat-out lies, things that never, ever happened, things that happened but were completely altered, but it's anchored by a very strong performance in the lead, and this guy, Austin Butler, who plays Elvis, is quite good. He's quite good. He's very good-looking. He gets everything that the image of Elvis right. The musical performances are terrific. Just like Rami Malek, this actor came to play. He was dedicated to playing Elvis Presley well, and he does. He does a good job. Unfortunately, like Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie that this performance is surrounded by is a lying, inaccurate, historically fucking bullshit movie about Elvis, and it's embarrassingly badly made. It's over the top in terms of that stupid style that Baz Luhrmann has, where he tries to mix modern music and rap and all kinds of crazy stuff, and lots of crazy camera angles and whipping this and crazy editing and special effects and zooms and lots of quick shots and crazy montages, all done to modern music, where they're taking cover songs of other artists and putting them in there, and taking modern rappers and doing it in there, even though if the movie takes place in the 50s, then there's suddenly 2020 artists rapping, because this is Baz Luhrmann and his crazy visual and audio style. He's talentless. He sucks. He's one of the worst filmmakers that's ever lived. And he takes all of that nonsense, that potpourri of shit, of bright, loud, stupid, incredibly brainless, inaccurate, lying, bullshit potpourri, puts it all together for almost 3 hours, and the result is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. But Austin Butler as Elvis is he's there. He's quite good. He's going to survive this thing unscathed. Who's not going to survive unscathed is Tom Hanks. The film is told from the point of view, it's Elvis's story. It's told from the point of view of Colonel Tom Parker, the controversial, manager of Elvis, who guided his career, and many people think that he was a money-grubbing asshole who is responsible for Elvis really falling apart, his career turning to shit. while his bank account rose. And it's true. Colonel Tom Parker was a piece of shit. He hooked him up with Dr. Nick to keep him all drugged up. All of the horror stories that you heard about the Svengali manager asshole that was Colonel Tom Parker, they're all true. He was a money-grubbing asshole who owed tons of money to casinos and tons of money to other people. Didn't care about Elvis, didn't care about his family, didn't care about his health, certainly, especially during the last, 10, 15 years of his life. It worked him like a horse until he died. And the movie is told from this person's point of view. And it's done so over the top, and he's clearly the villain. Baz Luhrmann, obviously, showing him as the villain. But the villain narrates it. And Tom Hanks is in a fat suit. He's got an indiscriminate accent. I don't know where it's from. According to history, Colonel Tom Parker, never told anybody where he was from. He was a mystery in that department. So I guess Tom Hanks decided that he was just going to do some weird generic accent that would also be inconsistent throughout the movie. Wear a terrible fat suit. It is, without question, the most embarrassing thing that Tom Hanks has ever done in his career. I'm including Lady Killers. I'm including the Da Vinci Code movies. I'm including The Man with One Red Shoe. It is, without question, the worst, most embarrassing, and awful performance that Tom Hanks has ever given, to the point where it's laughably bad. Like, there are scenes in this movie where you laugh out loud at how fucking horrible Tom Hanks is in this. He gets no help from Baz Luhrmann, who couldn't direct actors. He can't direct traffic, let alone actors, and allows Tom Hanks to do all this, and I'm sure encouraged him to do all this incredibly over-the-top silly shit, because Baz Luhrmann, everything he does is loud and crazy and over-the-top, and 100% fucking bad and stupid. So it goes through his career, the whole thing. There are times when the movie is just inaccurate and times when it's a flat out lie. The only section in the movie that even is remotely kind of interesting is the whole 68 comeback. The whole section of the movie where they do the 68 comeback special, because obviously, as you know, Elvis went away to the army. When he came back, he started making shitty movies. Meanwhile, the Beatles and counterculture were taking over. And so he had to come back in some way. So they did the 68 comeback special, which is a remarkable hour of television. But anyway, so in the movie, that's the most interesting part leading up to the recording of If I Can Dream, which If I Can Dream is the best song that Elvis has ever done. It's incredibly moving. It's beautiful. His performance is tear-inducing. It's the best vocal performance he's ever done, and Elvis was one of the greatest singers of all time. And so it can't help, that moment in the movie can't help but be really moving, because the song is so good and the performance is so amazing. And so that part of the movie is kind of interesting. And then the last 5 minutes is interesting because of this cheap, awful thing that Baz Luhrmann, this shameless, awful fucking thing, this low, incredibly low, awful thing that Baz Luhrmann, shameless asshole that he is, does during the last 5 minutes of the movie. That is very effective emotionally, but also incredibly cheap, and he didn't earn any of the tears that you get when you're watching the last 5 minutes of this movie. It's bullshit, it's cheap, it's awful. So anyway, so there's that. And there are moments in the movie that are embarrassingly bad, like awful and completely ridiculous. Like anytime, like the tumultuous 60s, like when Martin Luther King is assassinated, when Robert Kennedy is assassinated, when all of these things happen, when Vietnam happens, when the counterculture happens, it's all handled in ridiculous, over-the-top, laughable fashion. Like Baz Luhrmann wrote the story and co-wrote the screenplay, and everything that happens, the big emotional moments happen. Let me put it to you this way. Tom Hanks is in another movie that really takes a lot of historical stuff over the course of America and changes it for showy reasons. And that movie is Forrest Gump. Let me just tell you about this. Let me tell you something about this. Forrest Gump is more historically accurate than Elvis is. Forrest Gump as a character seems like a more real character than Elvis did. And Elvis is in Forrest Gump. Elvis makes an appearance in Forrest Gump. And that appearance that Elvis makes in Forrest Gump is more historically accurate in Forrest Gump than Elvis is in this fucking movie, and it's a 3-hour movie about Elvis. Just an awful, awful movie. So, over the top, terrible. There's no reason for this movie to exist. I knew it was going to be bad. It's even worse than I thought it was going to be. The most embarrassing thing, that Tom Hanks should be ashamed of himself. Tom Hanks should be fucking ashamed of himself for the embarrassing, awful, hilarious, non-stop So bad, it's funny, like wincing. There were moments when I was like, oh my God. Not just in Tom Hanks' performance, but the whole movie. The storytelling style, the way they got Elvis's history wrong, the fact that Baz Luhrmann doesn't care about shit, the performances by so many other people in the movie, the portrayals of his family and Priscilla and Lisa Marie and I mean, B.B. King is shown in this movie. There are so many like characters, like real historical characters that show up in this movie that are wrong, that are portrayed in, you know, inaccurately. It is an embarrassment. And again, the ripping over-the-top visuals, the flashy potpourri of sound and new music and mixture and all that shit that he's known for. Baz Luhrmann is an embarrassment to filmmaking. He is. Somebody should stop Baz Luhrmann from making any more movies. He is the Ed Wood of this generation, only Ed Wood was better. He's the worst. Now, this movie is terrible. You shouldn't see it. It's shit. If you're an Elvis fan, I don't know what you're going to think. Maybe people will like it. There were people in the audience that I saw it with that applauded at the end. I don't know. The Elvis estate seems to like it. You know why? Because the check cleared. Oh, the Elvis family, they're going out. You know, Lisa Marie is actually, you know, making appearances now, you know, at screenings. You know, she hadn't, you know, talked in front of a microphone in, you know, years, and she's out there. You know what? They got paid. The estate got a lot of money for this movie to be made. So, of course, the Elvis family is going to be running around saying how great it is because the check cleared, and it was a big fucking check. Congratulations. It's an awful movie that is an embarrassment to the icon, the artist, the amazing man that Elvis Presley was. It's not Austin Butler's fault. Austin Butler, who plays Elvis in the movie, he came to play. He's really good in it. He's going to get a lot of really good reviews. He may even get an Oscar nomination like Freddie Mercury did, or like Rami Malek did for Freddie Mercury. Because Rami Malek he was good in the movie, but Bohemian Rhapsody is a sack of lying, inaccurate shit. This, Austin Butler, very good as Elvis, but this is a sack of lying, inaccurate shit that also happens to be an obnoxious, loud, over-the-top montage of Baz Luhrmann stylistic, empty nonsense. Now, there are many reasons why this movie shouldn't exist, and I just named them all off. It's shit on every level, and it should not exist. But here are 3 reasons why this movie should not exist, and why you shouldn't even bother to see it. And the 3 reasons are this. 1, This is Elvis. It's a documentary that came out in 1981, and it is the definitive story of Elvis. It is handled in an incredible way. It's handled in a way that is that's perfect, in fact. It's a great documentary. It's got real footage in it that hadn't been seen in years. Some of it first time ever. Many of it, you know, so it's loaded with real footage, real performances, real home movies. And it also has reenactments with actors playing Elvis, reenacting things in it. It was made with care and with quality. It tells the real Elvis story, warts and all. It doesn't shy away from the last part of his life when he was fat and he was on drugs and things were really, really bad. It doesn't shy away from that. It's heartbreaking. It's beautiful. This is Elvis, 1981. The definitive version of Elvis's story. The great definitive documentary about Elvis Presley. This is Elvis from 1981. There are 2 cuts. There's like a 90-minute cut and an almost 2 hours and 30-minute cut. Get the long cut. Watch the long version. So, don't go see the bullshit Baz Luhrmann crap. You've got This is Elvis. Reason number 2 why this Baz Luhrmann movie should not exist. John Carpenter's Elvis. John Carpenter's version of Elvis's story is fantastic. It was made for TV movie from 1979. It was on ABC with Kurt Russell as Elvis. It is accurate to the Elvis story and also to some of the legendary stuff. It covers Elvis's rise and fall. It covers everything. It was made a year after Elvis's death, and it was broadcast a year and a half after Elvis died. And it still remains the quintessential fictional story of Elvis. So, Elvis with Kurt Russell as Elvis, who's fucking great in it, directed by John Carpenter. That's reason number 2 why the Baz Luhrmann movie should be ignored and pretend that it didn't exist. Reason number 3 is the Elvis comeback special from 1968, which they cover in the movie, which is the best section in the movie, even though the behind-the-scenes stuff that they show about how it got made and why it was going to be a Christmas special and then it wasn't, Colonel Tom Parker running around, Tom Hanks running around in a fat suit with a Christmas sweater on, is embarrassing and also completely inaccurate, filled with lies. That's not the way the 68 comeback special was made. It's not. So it's not only lie-filled, but it's the most emotional part of the movie because of how it builds up to If I Can Dream. Here's the deal. Just watch the original 68 comeback special. Just watch it. It's out there. It is one of the most incredible, amazing, iconic moments in entertainment history, iconic moments in Elvis's career, a portrait, a TV special of an artist at the height of his power, at the height of his creativity, who was stifled for many years and suddenly became relevant. He not only became relevant, but the special itself is fucking great in every level, from the laid-back, just really cool acoustic guitar sessions with him and the Memphis Mafia, to the big, over-the-top musical numbers, to the dance numbers, to all that stuff, to the closing with If I Can Dream. The 68 comeback special, the Elvis 68 comeback special, is one of the greatest things that's ever been on television. One of the greatest TV specials ever produced, and an incredible document of what was amazing and awesome and jaw-droppingly beautiful about Elvis Presley. So, 3 things that you should go to and you should watch instead of paying money to see Baz Luhrmann crap all over Elvis's grave and to see Elvis's family laugh all the way to the fucking bank. It's insulting, it's terrible filmmaking, it's awful. Elvis is an awful, awful movie. It's disrespectful to the memory of Elvis Presley. So instead, check out This Is Elvis from 1981, the quintessential documentary, a great film. Check out Elvis, directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell, the quintessential fictionalized version of Elvis's life. And for the real life, you want to see Elvis, you want to see what really matters, check out the 68 comeback special. That's it. That's all you need. You do not... First of all, even if these 3 things didn't exist, you shouldn't see the Baz Luhrmann piece of crap Elvis movie. But because these 3 things exist, this cements the fact that no one should go and see this stupid Baz Luhrmann movie. Ever. At all. This is Elvis. John Carpenter's Elvis. Elvis 68 comeback special. That's all you need. That's all you need. So, the movie's terrible, and luckily, those 3 things exist so that you can actually see an accurate, beautiful, and important portrait of an accurate, beautiful, important American icon. So, Elvis, Baz Luhrmann, one of the very worst movies of the year. Tom Hanks, the worst thing that human being has ever done in front of a camera, ever. It's a horrible movie, so that's it. And I don't care. I know a lot of people are going to love it. And again, Austin Butler's going to get a lot of press for this movie, and a lot of people are going to say, yeah, I liked it because of him, like a lot of people said they liked Bohemian Rhapsody because of Rami Malek. But Bohemian Rhapsody is a lying sack of shit movie, anchored by a performance that was good. This is the same thing. Only it's worse than Bohemian Rhapsody. No, it's not. They're both shit. But anyway, skip Elvis, check out This Is Elvis, John Carpenter's Elvis, and Elvis's comeback special from 68. That's what you should do to honor the memory of Elvis. Don't dishonor the memory and pay money to see this 3-hour piece of garbage. Baz Luhrmann, the worst.